It is so good to have you aboard with me again. My name's Mr. Gravy, and I'm back with another very special interview episode. Today, I get to sit down with a top 10 player in the world for MLB The Show. It's none other than Peter McGuigan. Pete, they call you Goobs. Did I butcher the last name, or did I get it?
No, you're good. You're good.
All right, fantastic. So, you're a Canadian. You were part of that Canada versus USA streamer tournament earlier. Your favorite team in MLB, it's got to be the Jays, right?
Of course. I grew up during the Lyle Overbay and Troy Gloss area, so
That's fantastic. But how does it really feel to be a Jays fan? That's the true question.
oh well, it's exciting now, obviously, and we had some fun there. 2015, 2016 with Edwin and Jose, against the Rangers rivalry. So, but now after a few years of rocky road, it's Bo and Vlad and Biggio and Austin Martin and Nate Pearson. So hopefully the future's bright. Hopefully.
It's finally kind of exciting. Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
So amongst those young men, who is your favorite young Jay coming up?
I feel like the most, I got his jersey over there, is Vladdy is the most obvious, but Austin Martin, man, I was watching some, I didn't know too much about him when we drafted him, but I was watching some highlights. Oh my God, that kid is going to be insane.
That's awesome. Obviously, baseball's coming back. How excited are you to be able to finally sit down and watch it?
It's so just nice to have sports back. I really didn't think we were going to get any of us.
You do a lot of other stuff as well. I saw that you're very active on Twitter with the horse racing. How'd you get into that? I kind of wanted to touch on that.
I am. Ever since I was, 2 weeks old, my parents and family were always involved in standardbred racing, harness racing, it's called. So that's just, it's in my blood. It's something that I've always wanted to do, when I was older, and I'm glad that I can kind of do that it's more of a hobby down here where I live in Nova Scotia. There's not much as far as like monetary that can go on with it, but it's nice to have, like a side hobby like that I can, get away. We'd never shut down during the pandemic. So
sure. That's awesome. You have a whole family connection, ties to it.
Yep.
It's in the blood. That's awesome. So let's just get right into things then. I mean, when it came to being a content creator, being a top player, how did you start? Let's get to the roots. Where did you start in MLB The Show?
Oh, my roots. In MLB, I started way back in MLB The Show 15.
Wow.
I started streaming back in 2014, just like a handful of my buddies that wanted to watch me, open up packs or something or watch my game. So I really started getting heavy into it back in MLB 16 Diamond Dynasty.
Okay.
I was more so on YouTube, just, off the PS4 Share Factory. We've all been there. we've all had the dealings with Share Factory, but it's been a long road, but here we are.
Here we are. Yeah. So speaking of it being a long road, have you always been a top tier player, or was there a struggle there?
I mean, starting out, it was like MLB 15. I didn't even want to like go online. It was road to the show. You want to hit 150 home runs a year,
Absolutely.
and that's what you wanted to do. But I mean, I was always decent, but I think the last few years, 19 and 20, I've kind of established myself as one of the top ones, especially after the Canada versus USA series, as you mentioned, against Rebels. So that was definitely a big stepping stone for me.
Speaking of that, I don't mind just going right into that real quick. I was kind of going through that. You had game 2. That game was unbelievable because, it was 4-2, 4-4, 10. Before you know it, it's 17-7 in extra innings, 17-17. And you ended up winning it in a walk-off. And you're like screaming, but you're whispering.
The old whisper yell, yeah.
What was that about?
I was just more in shock than anything.
You're an MLB 20, you're a top 10 player, you're fully established. The channel's really blown up this year, I would say. I mean, we were just talking before this, the streams have just slowly gotten better over the years. How does it feel to have this community behind your back?
Oh, this is the best community I've ever been a part of on Twitch. I originated from NHL and FIFA, and then, kind of gradually grew into the MLB community. And there's just, everybody wants to help you out. The top guys are so nice, and the community is so supportive. During COVID, you'd pop in a Twitch stream, you'd just see gifted subs everywhere, and just everything like that. So, but it's just I don't understand how anybody likes anything I do on the internet, but
well, it's easy to understand. You've got a great personality. You play the game really well. It's easy. It really is. But what you were talking about with the top players and you guys kind of really supporting each other. I see right now you're wearing some of the Your Friend Kyle merch right now.
I am Your Friend Kyle merch. I've known Kyle for over 3 years. Wow. Even before he was really streaming and making content. I've been really close with him, and he's done so much for so many people. I've only got nice words to say about Kyle.
Yeah, absolutely. In a lot of ways, he's like he's almost like the LeBron of this community in a lot of ways. I mean, he really is. From his social media presence to everything else. But unfortunately, all that can kind of mount a bit sometimes. I think you could agree. All the pressure, even maybe. I think you, along with other creators throughout this, especially during this COVID process, you kind of experienced maybe a bit of a burnout at some point.
Oh, for sure. I always tried to keep my stream like a positive environment, kind of good vibes only, where you can get away from what's happening in the real world. But so sometimes it would be community doesn't really make that easy. No. But yeah, I went back to work there the first week of June and kind of took like a 2 to 3 week break just away from everything from Twitch. And even this past weekend, I made a little road trip for myself with the family and the horses and got away from it all, and just you need that sometimes just to get away from social media and the game. So
I think people get lost, especially when they're looking at you guys being so good and being so consistent. I think they lose that human side of it, that at the end of the day, this is stressful.
Oh, it's that going back to the Canada versus USA thing. That was like 4 hours of just like after the second game, I called Ducey, who was also involved in it, probably my best friend in the whole world, and I was like, I can't do that again. Like it's draining. It truly is. From
a mental perspective, right? I mean, you have to be at such a high level. You're concentrating so hard, and then it burns you out. So speaking of that, though, let's talk about the state of the game, the gameplay this year. What are your thoughts on it? How do you like it? Do you like it?
I mean, it's not great. But with everything going on in the world, you kind of have to give them a pass for this year. And they're looking at bigger and better things with PS5 coming out, and hopefully going cross-platform. So it's kind of like 19 in the sense, like in the hitting sense of it. It's pretty well the same. They added the perfect. I think pitching is the biggest problem in my standpoint. Yeah, yep. Pitching was great back in 16 and 17, and then it kind of, when they switched the mechanics of it all, it kind of went way down. But I'm hopeful for next generation, just because the way I look at it, the first games in the PS4 were 15 and 16, and those are great iterations of the series. So it's tough to keep an open mind, just because the last 3 years they haven't really been terrific. But it's as I said, it's tough to keep positive. And
so if there was one thing that you would change about the game right now, if you could change one thing about MLB 20, what would it be?
When you hit your spot on pure analog pitching, it goes where it's supposed to.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's probably the number one issue. And I mean, because when you look at it, when you play these high-end players like Rebel, that's how you get those 17-17 games, 19-17 finishes, because you guys are so good at hitting, and it's so impossible to pitch that it just leads to these crazy runs, and that's got to get tiresome after a while.
Oh, it's mentally draining, and I understand the point of that. And then there's the aspect of sometimes you square it up and you don't go where it, you don't get rewarded. But I watched a video of Brev about it. If these guys got rewarded 95% of the time for squaring up balls, you'd have 50 to 50 games. But I think if you can cancel out some of the hitting problems if you fix pitching.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think it comes down to the core of pitching. So about hitting, though, you put out that hitting tips from number 4th ranked player in the world. It blew up 25,000 views. How does that feel? Just to even hear that.
I got a lot of questions the first 2 weeks of the game because I was playing a lot and I was high in the lifetime leaderboards for hitting tips video, or how you hold your controller. I got a normal standard PS4 controller, no control freaks, no special gadgets, no nothing. I hold it like a normal controller. I know some people do like the C grip kind of thing, and if you're comfortable with that, you can do that. But it's all reps. I've been playing this game for 5 years. Rebel's been playing it for much longer. There's always room to improve, and that's not going to happen overnight. I always say Rome wasn't built in a day, but
Perfect.
the hitting tips video, I tried to go more in depth than just kind of put your PCI on the ball. I always like to have good at-bats, try and get the pitcher out of the game as quickly as possible. That's not really the good meta this year because you can just bring in Corey Kluber or Hershiser out of the pen. But picking up tendencies is another big thing. Sometimes there's the batter and pitcher analysis, I believe it's called. You can go in and check, what your opponents are throwing, what pitches they're on. So usually, hopefully, by the third, fourth, fifth inning, middle of the game, you can have a breakdown in your opponent and really capitalize on that.
So you recommend that, I would think, to most average to above average players to do that. But for you, since you're at kind of a more elite level, I would assume that you're not particularly needing to do that as often.
No, well, I've taken a lot of time off the game, so I'm trying to get back in the swing of things and trying to I got to do all this again. When I was just kind of just killing people, but
damn it, it's so much work now.
It is, but in now more than ever, there are so many good players.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The last like 2 or 3 years or however long I've been playing, it was always, you had your Rebel, Kyle, Gunsky, Little Man, like guys like that.
Sure.
But now, you got these 14 and 15-year-olds coming out hitting 500 in seasons.
Yeah, they're insane. I know.
It's hard to, jump right back in the swing of things and go back to trying to compete with those kids. But it's, if you're kind of more of like an average player, you're struggling to hit World Series, you're, kind of barely making the cups, because I feel like that's where a majority of the community is.
Agreed.
A lot of the time, it's just reps. You got to get reps in, play as many legend games as possible. There's tons of videos on how to adjust your sliders in batting practice. Turn those all the way up. Go take an hour batting practice. I know it sounds silly, and that's a lot of time to waste just on batting practice. But at the end of the day, you do that. That's the way it always used to be back in 15 and 16. You can ask even guys that don't really play as much now. That's always what they used to do. It's just, I feel like a lot of people, they come on and they just expect to hit everything and everything and everything. A lot of it also is like not getting yourself mentally drained.
Okay.
Don't get frustrated. A lot of the times, everybody, myself included, I do it a lot. You get down in these big games when you're playing these top guys, you're going to give up runs. You're going to give up a lot of runs quickly. You got to keep up with them. You give up 8 runs the top of the first, I got to put up 9 the bottom half. That's the mentality to have. You're never out of it. I believe it was Zoe who had a BR comeback where he was down like 13 runs with 2 outs left.
Wow.
And he won. So that's you're never out of it. That's the way I always look at it. So reps and keeping a good mentality is the way I look at it.
Yeah, and I think there's something to be said about that, because I think a lot of people, they want to be good right away, and they're not willing to put in the actual time it really takes to be at a high competitive level versus just being kind of good at the game.
Yeah, it's exactly.
So I think there's something to be said there. So I was going to ask you if you had like a personal X factor, but it really seems like you're a big guy on taking the reps, getting used to things, and being consistent, all the way through. So I don't think there is probably a personal X factor for you, is there?
No, not really. It's just more so, getting back in the swing of things now that I took, some time for work and get back to streaming, every day and playing this game on Legend every day and trying not to get killed by the crack kids. But it's tough. It really is. But X Factor, I mean, breaking down people, that's really what I try to do. Cardinal Bird 5, who doesn't really play this game as much anymore, he was always very, very good at that. He wasn't as prolific as a hitter as someone like Rebel was, but he'd break you down. He knew what you were throwing in big counts and big spots with runners on. And that's really what I try to do, getting your opponent's head and I know what you're going to throw here.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So is there a pitch that in particular this year is just giving you a lot of fits? Is there a tough pitch for you?
Oh, cutters are
just... Forget about it.
Yeah, sinker, cutter. I mean, you look at like the top guys' rotation. It's Kluber, Hershiser, Al Leiter, Casey Mize. Sinker, cutter combos. You tunnel the pitch, and it's just the way with sinkers. Where sinkers aren't too tough. If you got like a 95, 96 sinker, it is tough to hit, but it's the 88 mile an hour cutter that has you flailing at the low and away pitch that really kills you. So,
is there a particular region in the strike zone where you feel particularly hot? Like for me, I'm a low ball hitter?
High and away
High
for
and
me.
away. Okay, that's interesting because that's
There's
a pitch a lot of people get people out on.
Yep, for sure. You can, if it's hung, you can always just pull it and hope you get like the early home run on it. But there's no greater feeling, like, especially like if it's lefty or righty with like a slider or a cutter and you just hit it the opposite. Oh.
Yeah.
So nice.
What you just did was a great way to encapsulate that feeling.
Yeah, I had the MVP Chris Bryant card. I think I was facing Kluber, and Buddy threw an away cutter, like dotted away, and it's just the no doubt. And he's just it's just magnificent.
He's got a good swing for that too.
Oh yeah.
When you're playing somebody and they're maybe pitching well, and you're maybe kind of in a position where you're still hitting the ball, but you're maybe not quite as on top of it as you normally are, is there something that you always try to take away? Like for some guys, they take away the fastball every time. Is that something you try to do too?
I always try to feel what they're doing when there's 2 strikes in the count. If they're trying to get you to, chase it something low or just get you looking, take that away, make them throw 4 extra pitches in that bat, and really get them off, like make them uncomfortable. And maybe that might mean contact swinging a few times. I personally don't do it, but I know there are some people that do it. And, make them throw some balls, just make them frustrated. How many times you see people get frustrated? Like, oh, they're not swinging the bat or they're fouling too many pitches off. Really do that. So it's hard to lock down like a pitch when you're hitting, just because, like, I'm going to go back to it. Sinkers and cutters are just pretty well impossible to hit. And then, guys with outlier, 102 mile an hour fastball and then a 90 mile an hour cutter. It's hard to just kind of lock that down. You just got to kind of hope almost.
Yeah, hope you get it.
and hope not. And I never tell people to guess pitches, but expect something and react to something different if it's coming.
I like that. That's really good advice. Do you find, though, that when you play these top players, such as pitching Revel, Kyle, Gunsky, do you find, though, that because they're at such a high level, it's almost like if the ball's in the strike zone, they're hitting it, you're hitting it, and it's just back and forth like that?
When you're playing the top guys, sometimes there's just nothing you can do. So you can throw the best pitch you've ever thrown, you can hit the best you've ever hit. Sometimes at the end of the day, it's just not good enough. That's going to happen.
Do top players do the same things? Like every top player in a way kind of play the same?
Well, they can all hit. It doesn't matter who you're pitching, you're going to get slapped around a little bit. And if you don't, then you should be winning.
Yeah, okay.
That's the way I always look. Like if you can get 6-7 innings out of your starter, only giving up 3 or 4 runs, that's just phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely. They dropped the new Josh Donaldson card today, as you know. Did you end up getting it? I know you were doing a BR stream.
Trying to get him as we speak. I'm putting buy orders in and just...
That one made you happy, I would have to imagine.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The poor Canucks have just been a little shafted as far as like the team affinity cards go, and just not much fun. But yeah, Donaldson's a nice one. I think he'll go in my lineup. I'm a little stingy spending stubs right now just because the big collection's coming out next week, and I want to see who that is.
Yeah,
I want to see who that is. But Donaldson's one of my favorite players I ever saw. Regardless, I'll probably pick him up.
Your reaction to the Face of the Franchise Part 3 with Henke was just hilarious. I saw that clip. They hate Blue Jay fans. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Obviously, you don't really feel that way, but are you a little bit disappointed about the lack of Blue Jay stars other than Josh?
Yeah. You see everybody building like their all-time Yankee teams or all-time Red Sox teams, and I'm over here. I have Danny Jansen at catcher in my all-time Blue Jays team. So
that's so funny. That's great. So I wanted to also touch on some fan questions. I usually have you guys go out and ask your fans. So far, I'm going to be honest though, it's failed miserably, and nobody actually puts anything in there. But I want to read a couple of them. Yep. Max wanted to know: do you think Nolan Arenado's a top 10 player in baseball?
Yes, Max, he is. Yes, we've had this discussion multiple times. Easily.
So he must not think so.
I would say he's number 4 or 5.
Okay, there you go. All right, there you have it. Everyone knows now, top 4 or 5 player in baseball.
There you go, Max.
Somebody wanted to know who's top 5 in baseball right now. I feel like that's kind of a hard one.
Is that? Oh, you mean real life baseball?
Yeah.
The DJ himself. I don't really put pitchers in the same category as hitters.
That's fair.
Just because it's a little hard to dictate it. But I would say Trout's number 1, obviously. Bellinger's number 2, and then you could throw Yelich, Arenado, Mookie. There's a lot of guys you could throw in there. there. I think I would go Trout, Bellinger, Yelich, Arenado, and I know I'm going to forget someone. Probably Mookie or Judge would be number 5.
There you go.
I think when Judge is healthy, he could definitely be 3rd, but it's a little hard to put him there right now when he hasn't really been as healthy the last 2 years.
I'll never forget that home run derby with Judge where he was just flicking the ball the other way. And I mean, it was incredible.
The one with Vlad and Pete last year was very good, but Judge was just anything and everything would go with it. It's just, he's so much fun to watch, even as a Blue Jays fan.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll do 2 more fan questions. Is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer?
Yes, he is.
Yes.
That's another one of my more better Twitter clips. There was a girl on Twitch one night doing this thing called Twitch-a-Lorette, and I went on.
Okay.
And it was a satire thing for content, and I went on, and she was like, oh, what's one question you'd ask this girl if you had to date her that's a deal breaker? And I very politely looked in the camera and I said, is Eli Manning a Hall of Famer? Everybody was weak. Literally, the entire MLB community was in there. Everybody was weak, and I think she was hitting a vape or something, and she was like, "Is that sports?" And then she kicked me off her stream. So
I think I remember seeing that.
Yeah, it's
that's great, dude. Yep. You're fantastic. Kreiner wanted to know. He's been posting this one around. Who do you got, Dak or Wentz?
Can I pick Daniel Jones instead?
Yeah, dude, pick whoever you want. Pick Darnold for all I care.
100% healthy Wentz.
Wentz, okay. Yep. All right. You're going to defend the point? You're just going to leave it there?
I'm not high on Dak Prescott.
Okay. There you go. Perfect. Yep. If you guys want to connect with Pete, I'll have all of his stuff in the description below. His Twitter, his Twitch, his YouTube, everything will be there for you. Goobs, I just want to thank you so much. It was a pleasure sitting here with you. I hope you'll come back one day and we can talk more.
Oh, 100%. I love doing stuff like this. I'm hoping to start up a podcast sometime soon, so we'll definitely hit you up one day to get you on. So
keep me in mind.
Sure.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
For sure. I love, this is why I started streaming and creating content, just to, chill out, talk about video games, sports, shoot the shit kind of thing. So
absolutely. Pete, thank you so much. I really appreciate you. Everybody, if you liked these videos, you know what to do. And if you want me to interview somebody, let me know. I'll go reach out to them, or you reach out to them for me as well. Hey, it all works together. We're all in this together. Thank you so much again, Pete. Thank you so much for everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.